And thank you, all of you, for volunteering to do this, and we look forward to an informative presentation. I'll turn it over to Kat. Hold it or put it back in there. You want to hold it? Or?
I'll hold it.
Okay. There he is.
Oh, we don't have to go catch you. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. First, I want to thank everyone for being here and also inviting me to be here for the panel. And I think we have 3 good speakers who are going to give you some good information on dam removal. As we all know from the very beginning when dams were built, the tribes were not necessarily involved. And because the tribes weren't involved, we are now going back and trying to say, these are the things that need to be done. And so what I've asked this group to do is to respond to a few questions. One is the pros and cons of the court process, because we've been in court, and the pros and cons of collaboration and partnership process. And how long has it taken for the removal of a dam to move forward? And we know some are still in the planning process, but we know one has been removed, so how long has it taken? Is the dam the only way to rebuild salmon stocks in this basin that they're going to be talking about? And what stocks are in the basin, and are any of these stocks listed under ESA? And then, who are the leaders? We all have tribal leaders, state leaders, county leaders, but who are they? And what organization did they represent in moving this forward? And then, what happens after dams are removed with the co-managers? Because we all know, like I was just telling Les and Aaron, it's like, once you get a contract or once you get an agreement, yes, it's hard to get that contract or agreement, but we also know that it comes to the implementation, we still have to continue to work. And the very last question is, how is the dam removal linked to the basin habitat and water quality? And so now I'm going to turn it over to Jeremy, and he can get us started, okay?
I had 6 hours when Kat sent me the list of questions, so please bear with me. Nick Pachwai, everyone, Wanashash, Bakanash, Shapatimki, Jeremy Takala, Washnashtawa, Kinchiwanapa, Kwapamyanawe, Chi, Pachwaipa. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jeremy Takala. My Indian name is Bakanashat. I like to recognize that I come from the Big River, meaning the Columbia River. I reside in a small community called Georgeville. It's outside of Goldendale, Washington, and it's about 45, 50 miles from our headquarters in Toppenish, Washington, so I commute every day. I like to call that place home because, a lot of our people still reside along the Columbia River, those that refuse to move to the reservation because, our livelihood is along the Columbia River. The fish is still running. Our foods are there, our cultural places, our burial grounds, and, most importantly, our longhouses and, that are very active today. So I think it's important for folks, to recognize those areas and, to continue on our way of life. I want to thank the Cow Creek Band of Umpqua for hosting a beautiful event. I was telling the chair, I've driven by this property many, many times, bringing my kids to Disneyland, but I never had an opportunity to stop by, so this is a great property to visit. But I'm Jeremy Takala. I'm serving my second term for the Yakama Nation Tribal Council. I serve as our chair for the Fish and Wildlife Committee, the Law and Order Committee, the Legislative Committee. I'm also the current vice chair for the Columbia River Intertribal Fish Commission. I also serve for my legislative. I'm on the Seattle Indigenous Advisory Council as well. So there's a lot of delegations that each of our respective committees serve on, including our council member, Charlene Tillaquatz, who's also joining us from Yakama Nation. I think many of you know the Yakama Nation has been co-managers, for decades of our anadromous and resident species. The unique thing about Yakama Nation is we are a party to the US v. Oregon and also US v. Washington, so that's a unique thing about Yakama Nation. We have a fisheries program that employs about over 250 that work at many different satellite offices that go up to the Methow Valley down to the Tri-Cities area along the Columbia River that have different offices, whether it be the supplementation facilities, monitoring, adult trap and transport, and also, of course, our monitoring and evaluation offices. I think many of you know that recently there is a group formed as the Six Sovereigns, meaning the states of Washington, Oregon, and the 4 treaty tribes, the Nez Perce, the Umatilla, the Warm Springs, and the Yakama Nation, with the recent news of our Columbia Basin Restoration Initiative. And our former chair of Umatilla was very much a part of that work, and I want to appreciate your service for the Umatilla, but also for, the tribes of the US v. Oregon. So a lot of work. That was years and years of work, and to spotlight the Columbia River Basin was something that this administration has really shown its trust responsibilities to the treaty tribes. But I know there's been a lot of public media attention on the Lower Snake River dam removal. I'm not going to talk about that. I know there's people want to know. There's different position. It gets very political during this time of elections. But, we want to make sure and ensure that folks understand the interim is what we like to call the billion-dollar backlog, where there's a lot of interim measures that need to be addressed when it comes to hatchery, habitat, restoration, fish passage. You got predation issues that occur. I know many folks are aware of the sea lion issues in the lower Columbia River. We want to reassure that a part of this Six Sovereigns work is geared towards that. Although, we do agree, like the NOAA report says, the Snake River dams must be removed. We also want to ensure that the study still is taking place as each of these interim measures are addressed. What I am going to be talking about is the Condit Dam removal. Yakama Nation was very much involved in that. It's located on the White Salmon River. The Condit Dam came online in 1912. The turbines of the Condit Dam would only produce up to 13.7 megawatts, enough energy to bring electricity to approximately 7,000 homes a year. When the Condit Dam was construction, there was an attempt for a fish ladder to be built, but unfortunately a flood had washed that away, and so with the rebuilding of another fish ladder in 1918, another flood washed that away. So with that being said, an attempt was made in 1925 with an experimental fish ladder. Obviously failed. So when the Condit Dam's operating license was up for renewal in the 1990s, FERC, which is the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, I think many folks in the audience, they approve all the our licenses for the hydroelectric dams in the United States. Of course, that being said, one of the main requirements was a fish passage. The company that owned the dam, which is Pacific Core, now that was mentioned earlier, it estimated that it would have cost 3 times more to update the Condit Dam to required standards that it would cost to decommission it and take it out. December of 2010, FERC accepted the surrender of Pacific Core's license for the Condit project, authorized the removal of the dam, flow lines, surge tank, and dismissed Pacific Core's previously filed application for a new license. October 26, 2011, 99 years after completion of the Condon Dam, the dam was finally breached and the removal process began. So at the time, it was the largest dam to remove in the United States, but obviously we have some bigger dams that's been removed since then. The Elwha, most recently. In 2010, a technical working group, including our fisheries program, the tribe, in coordination with USGS, the Fish and Wildlife Service, NOAA, Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife, conducted a pilot study to test techniques to transport a portion of the tule or fall chinook, which is a ESA listed, above the Condon Dam. Again, in 2011, as many tule chinooks were captured and transported above the dam. Otherwise, that entire year of production would have been lost with torrents of sediment that came down. Spring chinook, fall chinook, and coho steelhead have been observed spawning and rearing above former dam sites, and several key tributaries now open to anadromous salmon. Pacific lamprey and bull trout have also been documented above the former dam site. Spawning habitat below the former dam site has also increased and improved. I know we have a list of questions, but I just want to give a little bit of background on the Condon Dam. If you guys are unfamiliar, there is a YouTube link where it shows, I think it's National Geographic had a link where it showed the dynamite, and a lot of folks at Yakima reference it like, oh, there's a buffalo coming out, you can see it in the water, but I just saw water coming out.
I see
Cat's seen it. But I want to say at that time I was at our fisheries program prior to being elected, and in coordination with our partners, it was quite the experience to observe the decommission of the dam, but most importantly to see the connection that was made, that was blocked out for nearly a century, and to have returning native species and anadromous species was something historical to see, the connection that was once made again, because in the area, if you get a chance to visit the White Salmon River, it's known for its rafting, but it's also known for the scenic and the natural beauty that it has. And it's very interesting because on the right riverbank side facing downstream, you have the Cascade Range coming out. And then on the left bank downstream side, that's kind of more of where it transitions to the eastern side of the Cascade, where we have a lot of oak trees, of course poison oak, and a lot of rattlesnakes. But a very beautiful area, a lot of great natural habitat for fish that return to spawn in. So just of my personal observation and experience on being a part of that effort. So thank you guys, and I know we have questions, and I'll pass the mic to our fellow chairs here. Thank you.
Hayuki. I'll try and get my notes up here real quick so I don't forget anything. Well, thank you guys for all being here. Thank you for your kind words there. And yeah, sorry, Karuk tribe likes to be big. So we are taking the biggest dam removal in the world out, as you guys know, is today. It all started back when I was fishing at the falls one day with our fisheries back in the late 80s. Me and my uncle were down there fishing for the tribe. And a gentleman named Ron Reed came down and was talking to us, and he said, hey, Troy, says, how you and your uncle think we can get more fish back in the river? My uncle turned around and told him, blow those dams up. So now, so that's how it started. And since then, a bunch of tribal members from the Karuk tribe and the Yurok tribe formed a coalition, and it was called the Intertribal Fisheries and Water Commission. It was made up by the Karuk tribe, Hupa tribe, and the Klamath tribe. And they put their steps out and started working on the dams. They started talking to some of the government agencies, and they got turned down a couple times on some of their projects. So they wanted to put ladders into these big old dams, and they couldn't, fish ladders, and they couldn't do it. So then back in 2002, a bunch of tribal members from the Yurok tribe and Hupa tribe named and our natural resources officer at the time, Leif Hillman, Ron Reed, Troy Fletcher, who's no longer with us, Florence Conrad, who's no longer with us, and Donna Rose, Chook Chook, Alana Lisa Hillman, Molly and Frankie Myers. Frankie Myers is vice chair now of the Yurok tribe. And there was a bunch more of them. Took it on themselves to start going back to, they went clear back to Iceland and where Pacific Corps' main office was. And they cooked fish right out there in their front lawns, you know. And then they went to Nebraska, to Warren Buffett's place. And they wouldn't be in the meetings, so we bought stock. They had to talk to us then. They had to talk to us. We went to their meetings, went to Colorado, busted in their meetings and said, you have to listen to us. Here's our stock. We had one stock. And we all gathered monies up and bought that stock, one stock we bought. They had to listen to us. And then it was in 2000, I think 16, let me look at my notes here. It was in about 2016, 2004, the license for all 4 dams came up. And we really went to Warren Buffett again, and we kept going through those meetings and telling them that, you know, with these new licenses coming up, we went to the state of California and Oregon both and said that we wanted fish ladders. Well, at that time, we didn't have just the tribes, we didn't have no backing. And then all of a sudden, Pacific Coast federal fishermen came along and helped us, backed us up. Friends of the River came along, backed us up. Cal Trout came and backed us up. Trout Unlimited came and backed us up. American Waters came and backed us up. Native Fishing Society came and backed us up. Save the Salmon of California came and backed us up. And Salmon River Restoration Council and probably a few more other organizations came and backed us up. I mean, this was a long journey, and we were getting shut down with all these partners. I'm a little nervous here. I've been saying the speech about 20 times here, but every time it's a little different. But for us, it was staying on it. Just tribal members, not just the politics and the government. It was the members of our tribes and our communities that really fought for this, that really, I'm sitting here thinking there's 4 or 5 people that are not here today that's not seeing the things I got to see. I made a promise to them that I'd do a dance as soon as I seen the excavator on the last dam, and I got to do that at the beginning of this month. I mean, things like that. I mean, because you really got to think if it wasn't for their dedication and their hard work, I wouldn't be sitting as a chairman where I'm at today. I mean, a council member as I'm at today, because I'm thinking about the chairman. He just called me. I wouldn't be here for them. And I'm a 5th generation fisherman for our tribe. And that speaks a lot, because we have almost 4,000 members of our tribe. And now those 4,000 tribal members, there's only 15 fishermen per year that fish for our tribe. We fish over whitewater. We fish on platforms in the high water with just 2 poles holding us up. So I got my son, both of my sons are fishermen now, and I got 2 grandsons that I hope one day will be able to fish for those salmon. So when I came on the council, I took over these people who are no longer with me, and sorry about that. So to see these dams and stuff that's going on, it's in my heart. It's like I just had a heart operation. They just unclogged an artery that goes through my heart. And that's how I feel with these rivers being open. And to have another 300 miles of habitat for salmon that hasn't seen salmon in 100 years. 100 years, it's going to be great. It's going to be awesome. I can't wait to take my grandson in about 4 years from now, 3 to 4 years from now, I say. He's going to be 2 here in a couple more months. I want to be able to bring him up to Fall Creek on the Spray River up in Oregon and see spring salmon spawning. Spring salmon back home where they belong to be. It's hard. I mean, I've been talking about dam removal for my last 6 years. So with the restriction of the dams, it's awesome to see come out, but it's not over. Just because we take dams out don't mean it's over with. As a Crook tribal member and a council member and working with natural resources for the tribe, we're looking at another 15 years of rehabbing the river, wildlife, bringing back the wildlife to the river, helping restructure the river and the streams into the river, and making sure our salmon get to where they have to be. We reconstructed a new fish hatchery in Fall Creek that's produced over a million, say half a million of coho this year, and almost 900,000 fall Chinook that we released just about a month ago into the Klamath River. That'll be the first fish to make it back past the dams. So that's exciting. And we're also working with my neighbors here to my right, the Klamath tribes. They're helping with the suckerfish in the upper basin. We put water this year because there's no water coming down the river because of the dam removal. So we only had 1,000 cc's going down the river for right now. And we took that excess water from the Yurok tribe and us. We said that this is excess water supposed to be coming down into our territory, that we wanted to put it out into the refuge. And for the first time in 10 years, the Lower Klamath Refuge has water in it. It looks beautiful. Yeah. Today it looks beautiful up there with all this water, the ducks flying around for the first time in 20 years. It looked awesome. I mean, these are the things that dam removal can do. I mean, it's a big, long process, and we've gotten beat up, slammed down, knocked down by our own members in our communities. Our local governments try to say disaster, make it a disaster, say we killed the river forever. Well, I'll sit here and tell you guys today, we've been monitoring the river since the first dam came out last fall. And all the fish for the first time in 15 years have no diseases on them that are going back into the ocean. Our steelhead run this spring was one of the biggest steelhead runs that came into the Klamath. The eel run was one of the biggest eel runs we've had in the Klamath in over a decade. The sturgeon made it up into some of the spawning grounds they have not seen in probably 10 years in my lifetime. Our spring salmon, as of 2 weeks ago, have hit the river, and they're running in the hundreds. In the hundreds for the first time are hitting the Klamath River in the hundreds. That just shows you what just a little bit can be done when we put our heads together as people to do the right thing. But we got a long ways to go. These are just little times that the Creator gave us to do these perfect things. We don't know what's going to happen next year with the new changes of the Guard. But we all know those things can change down. Our programs can disappear from one of these things that we're doing. But to let you guys know, and the Klamath tribes know, that the Kuruk tribe and the Yurok tribe are going to do our best to make sure our salmon make it to where they have to be. And I appreciate you guys all here today. There's a lot more I can tell you, so I'll be here all week. If you guys want to learn some more or understand a little bit more, just pull me aside. I can talk your ear off about Klamath removal. I just don't want to waste any more time. I like to talk a lot about this, so I'm going to pass this on to my colleague to my right. Thank you very much, Iotoa.
It's a song.
Hope I didn't break it. Well, Kalitsi, Gawasasas, Les Anderson, you Skinny, Modokni, and Elk Skinny. I'm from Willow Loxley, Beatty, Oregon. Member of the Klamath Tribes Tribal Council. It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you for hosting us, Cow Creek. Myself, I am a little nervous as well because I think I got you beat because I was told about this about 3 hours ago. But in moving forward, it's a great day. It's a great event that we're having here. For me, my engagement with the dam removal project, it probably started back in the mid to late 1990s. Under the relicensing, they had to do some cultural resource surveys to get the report ready for FERC. I was lucky enough to be on the survey crew. So what that gave me was a picture of the canyon and the culture significance, knowing that it was already significant anyway, but being able to revisit those sites and understand a little bit about the environment that exists in the canyon, and of course what those dams had caused during that time of putting them in, of the salmon not being able to come up. Fortunately, my grandmother, Luella Anderson, or George, was in our ethnography. There's been some writings that she can remember being on a stretch of the river where our place is in Beatty, that in the springs that she was there with her brother on the canoe holding a lantern as they were spearing the salmon out. There's archaeological evidence that the salmon existed before the Mount Mazama or Giwas had blown up. So salmon had been in that river for a long time. Fortunately, we're up close to the headwaters of where the Klamath tributaries that feed into that make the Klamath. So we see those water qualities, those issues of from the forest, or I should say the mismanagement of the forest that has caused pearl effects on our watersheds and that water quality, catastrophic fires that has happened within where the headwaters are of the Klamath that really affect the water quality of the river, and trying to put those restoration efforts back into existence of restoring that river to what it was once before is going to be challenging. As my brother said here, it's not over just because the dams have come out. I feel that's when the work really starts. I was kind of sharing with them. In order for us to have a thriving population of our fisheries, it's kind of like who likes to come home after a vacation and come back to a dirty house. It's time that we have to do house cleaning on restoring those systems back, and that's a lot of work. And it is going to require a lot of support from the legislation, as well as mentioned about that money coming in and the proper use of that money and the proper direction of how that goes in order to make these things happen. It's not going to be, it's going to be very, very challenging, to say the least, of restoring these. There's a lot of private landowners that we're going to have to partner with. So having collaboration with our partners, whether it be the counties, the private landowners, the agencies, BLM, Forest Service, BOR, these different agencies, and we're making those strides through those agreements that it can happen and it can be done. But it's going to be a challenging introducing a new species. We do have a species of our chwam and our coptoot that's on the brink of extinction now, based on our water levels and our water quality, and we're doing all we can do to fight to clean that quality and water levels up. but it takes a lot of good cooperation with our agencies and our partners and looking at that long-term goal of reintroducing those salmon back. We are starting to work with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife on a hatchery of our own, which will have to rely heavily upon our neighbors that are experienced in that field of salmon hatcheries and that type of work. We've been spending a lot of time dealing with our chwam and our coptoot, keeping those alive, and of course our other species of red band trout. And so it's going to require a lot of work and moving forward and getting this accomplished. However, it's not I can't say it's undoable, but it's just going to take a lot of work, and then that's fine, because I think the more work you put into something, that makes you have ownership of it, and when you become ownership of it, then you really start to take care of it, and that's what we have to really prove that to our partners that don't see that it's just a river or it's just fish. They don't understand what that means to us as natives, as a way of life, and what that means and brings to us. And once again, I'm gonna. I know we probably are low on time, maybe, but I'll go ahead and pass it back to Kat.
I just got one more. I forgot to mention, too, with my partner here just brought it up, is that the Yurok tribe and the Kuruk tribe, Klamath tribe, and Hupa tribe, we just made an MOU with the farmers in the Upper Klamath Basin. We made an MOU with them in the federal government so that if the farmers go out for a grant or the tribes go out for a grant, we're all going to back it no matter what. And the grants that come into the Klamath Basin, and we're also working on another MOU with other federal agencies that come into the Klamath to work with the Klamath and the Klamath Basin to protect fisheries and farmlands, that the money stays in the county. We're not going to contract contractors that live in Portland to come to Klamath Falls to work in Klamath Falls. It's going to stay in the county, within the county, because that's what happens to all communities. You guys see it in your homes. They bring in these big contractors from somewhere else. All they come in there is the camp for a week, but they take their paycheck and spend it in Seattle, Portland, somewhere else, but not in your small communities. And that's what kills the small communities also. So we're working on that also through dam removal. This is what dam removal can do for a lot of tribes.
Well, I have to say, I mean, even though these guys were notified within a few hours, they did a pretty good job. And I will also say that I had a list of questions you didn't all answer, but that's okay. That's okay, because I think your story was great. I mean, you told a story about the basin. You told a story about how it impacts your people, our people. And I think those are the type of stories that we really need to get out there. You know, and working together, the tribes getting together. I can remember, I've been around long enough, I can remember fighting with Yakima, eh? And now we are good friends. I mean, and all of us can remember stories like that, how we didn't necessarily get along, but at the same time, when we get along and we work together, it's not only a benefit to the tribes, it's a benefit to everyone who lives in that area. And I think, you know, the story that these guys told was great, because it's about them. It's about the people in their area, and that's definitely what we need to be telling our story more, so that people can understand that we're not just fighting for ourselves. We're fighting for the Pacific Northwest. And, you know, water quality, I mean, it's important for all of us. I mean, I was talking to a few youths a few weeks ago, and they were asking how come water was so important, and I just kind of looked at them and I thought, water is important for all of us, because if you don't have good, clean water, what are you going to drink? Where are you going to build your home? How are you going to build your economy? You know, so it's all linked together. We have to look at everything when we look at how we're going to manage our natural resources. So I think these guys did a good job. And just, Jeremy wants to cut me off. Hey. No, that's fine. You don't need to answer the questions. Oh, okay. Okay, go ahead.
All right. I'm not fighting with Kat, too, by the way, so I don't know what she's talking about. I think we all know, and I imagine it's the same for all of tribal leadership, specifically those that serve on fish and wildlife committees. It is a difficult role, when it comes to advocating for our indigenous species, our first foods, because it comes down to fishing seasons, and it's very hard to interpret, what's set in place by court order, what stemmed from the So Happy Smith, the Winans case, and, where we are at as far as USP Oregon and our harvest management, in hopes to stay under those harvest catch guidelines, and that's the difficult part as we have. I imagine, my fellow tribal council chairs here, it's difficult, and I know Kat Brigham, and our fellow tribes here, Warm Springs, Umatilla, and Nez Perce, we deal with that quite a bit, especially during springtime. There's a saying that we kept utilizing when we were in DC is, we're not managing for fishing, we're managing for closures now. It's unfortunate. And we're not looking at, the interim measures, because we all know there's a lot of factors that come into play when it comes to the decline of our salmon species, our steelhead species, our lamprey, our sturgeon. Even, I was very happy to hear, the chairs here bring up suckers, bridge-lip suckers. A lot of our folks, even in our tribal communities, they're not aware of those type of residential species because why? It's not present. There's a legend stories that talk about the bridge-lip suckers and the lamprey. And, each time those species go missing, it's our culture that's also being taken away from our children and our future. So, that's why for us as leadership with our staff and, of course, our legal counsel, it's very important that we continue this effort for the sake, as we say, our future generations. It's not only for the tribal benefit, it's for the whole region. It's for all of our neighbors. It's for the ocean. It's for our orcas. It's for, our mountains, that replenishes the trees, the animals, and so forth. So I know Kat had, I'm going to lead into some of the questions. I know Kat had sent out, the pros and cons of a court process. Particularly for the Conant Dam, there really wasn't no court process that was being considered, although Klickitat and Skamania County did threaten lawsuits. But then, became to settle with Pacific Corps just to basically get out of the way. If believe me, Klickitat County is very difficult to work with when it comes to Yakama Nation. Some of the pros and cons that we dealt with and working with our partners was more of just the adult trapping of the Chinook that was largely undertaken by Yakama Nation Fisheries, Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife, NOAA, and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. Of course, with the lower level of the water, there was a lot of trapping that was taking place below the Conant Dam. Several parties to the settlement agreement became more familiar with one another and began long-standing partners. I heard a partner that was mentioned, Yakima Nation and American Rivers is a good example of partnership. The Yakima Nation Habitat Team led restoration efforts in the former reservoir, which is called the Northwestern Lake area, and we engaged with many members of the local community, including through the White Salmon River Group. Our nation has also had an advisory role in the Lower White Salmon Coalition efforts to envision the future of Pacific Corp lands and post-condent. When we talk about, the years of work, since 1983, the FERC license came up for renewal and required fish passage. Several years into the process, Yakima Nation, CRICFIC, Pacific Corp all contributed $20,000 to conduct an economic analysis of costs of fish passage up and down and upgrades to the Asian Dam and powerhouse. The economic analysis indicated that decommission was the best for Pacific Corp's bottom line. Yakima Nation conducted major revegetation efforts in the upper former reservoir, showcasing tribally important plants and a nature trail with informational signage. When we talk about stocks, I know, the stocks that were mentioned in the Klamath, we have our stocks in the main stem Columbia, but we also have, certain stocks that are important to each of the tributaries that can contribute to the main stem. So particularly for white salmon, again, this was a dam that had no fish passage, so this was area that was more for recreational use. One of the ESA listed stocks included spring chinook, tules, fall chinook, coho, the mid-sea steelhead, lamprey. In addition, there are upriver bright, fall chinook, and one of the farthest inland populations of coastal cutthroat trout. Chum were historically part of the fish community, but have rarely been seen in the basin since the construction of the Bonneville Dam. The leaders and organizations who supported our removal, American Rivers, American Whitewater, Columbia Gorge Coalition, Columbia River United, Federation of Fly Fishers, Friends of the Columbia Gorge, Friends of Earth, Friends of White Salmon, the Mountaineers, Rivers Council of Washington, the Sierra Club, Trout Unlimited, Washington Trout, Washington Wilderness Coalition, Columbia River and Trout Fish Commission, the Yakima Nation, the U.S. Forest Service, the U.S. Department of Interior, the National Marine Fisheries Service, the Washington Department of Ecology, the Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife, and Pacific Corp. As far as co-managers taken after the dam, what steps as far as co-managers after the dam was moved? As I mentioned, in my personal experience, we were conducting spawner surveys with collaboration with WFW, who conducted the main white salmon surveys, which involved Chinook. We also had USGS that studied juvenile production, but due to limited funds, the study of white salmon, wasn't really surrounding all the stocks. So in order for that to take place, it was mainly Yakima Nation and partnering with the Klickitat project that was taking on these spawner surveys. The white salmon is now full accessible to anadromous fish, including Pacific lamprey. There is no longer a flow-impacted bypass reach. Sediment transport and fluvial processes are that of a free-flowing river. There is much more good spawning habitat for fall chinook, even in the formerly accessible reaches of the lower river, due to transport of sediments from the dam breach and subsequent free-flowing river. Nutrients, organic debris, and food can now move freely, provide a healthier food web habitat, forming processes. Cold water refuge of the lower White Salmon River is better maintained by a free-flowing river. And even though it's been since 2011, there's still ongoing work, and maybe something that these two gentlemen may be working on, or other folks out in the audience, is it's been a long process. But when you form partnerships, such as even the folks that we may not see eye to eye with, but the partnership that was formed with Pacific Corp and others kind of gave a segue for Yakima Nation, who will, and this might be new for my Yakima members here, so, but we will soon own the lands on both sides of the lower White Salmon River, which is about 5 miles on both sides. Which is, of course, for us, it's about conservation values and more importantly, the cultural resources that, provide the opportunities to exercise our treaty rights. So the work doesn't stop once the dam removal is done. There's continuation of that needs to be recognized and mindful of, and that we move forward in our partnership. So I just want to offer that. I know that was a lot to hear, but that was a part of our efforts and the success story of the Connet Dam removal. So thank you.
I just got one little thing to say on that. Thank you, because you reminded me on the good side for us, on the good side for the Crook tribe, on the Klamath, is that working with NOAA and Fish and Game from California and Oregon with this process of taking the dams down. And with our little small fishery crew that we have, I think we have a total of 10 people on our fisheries crew, and we have probably 5 on our water quality crew. Just in the last 5 years, the state of Oregon, the state of California, and NOAA have taken all our data off the Klamath River, and they're using it on the Sacramento River right now also. And we're also using it on the Road River here in Oregon. It's just these little projects that we do with the dedication of the members that we have working for us, that love doing their job and love working for the tribes. And the dedication they put in there has gone a long ways, longer than a person that's gone to Harvard for 5 years and come back and wrote a book. They're taking our knowledge, our native knowledge now, and with their science and putting it all together and knowing that we also have the technology. And I've seen it just in the last 2 to 3 years real good on the Klamath River, because now with our water quality sites and with our fish data that we're having, they're coming to us and they're asking us how the water quality is for today and what you expect on your, all these little things. And they're taking it to heart. They're using it instead of using their own studies. And just these little things, there's good things and bad things that come out of, we know a lot of things that we do. But for this young man was saying that it's going to take a long time. Yes, it's going to take a long time working with my brothers in the upper basin and working with my lower brothers that live in the lower basin. If you guys don't know, Happy Camp is in the middle of the Klamath River. It's 100 miles to the ocean, and it's 100 miles to the spawning grounds. So we're right in the middle. So whatever these guys do up there affects us, and whatever they do down at the bottom affects us. So we have to work together to protect each other. And like the young lady said up there, I can remember when my grandparents were forming to be recognized as tribes, lots of fights, lots of family not being with families and other tribes. It was bad. But nowadays, working together and getting things done, we can go a lot farther by working together than we can do separately. So I just want to thank you guys. And like I said, with my partners and family up in the upper basin, we have to work on protecting their sucker fish, also with our coho, which is on a endangered species list. And like I said at the last meeting a couple months ago at the timber plan meeting, was that our next fish that will be on the endangered species list will be the springers, and then following that will be our fall Chinook run. In 1964, the last dam that was built on the Klamath River was called Iron Gate Dam. There was over 150,000 salmon hitting the bottom of that dam. Last year, there was less than 20,000 salmon hitting the dam, fall Chinook. So that's just in the 80 years process that's happened. So that's why I'm so excited, and it's deeply in my heart to see that these fish have a chance to get back to being the 100,000s. So I just want to let you know that's what we've been working on, and it takes villages to get where we have to be nowadays. And I love working with my brothers, and we also, our crews have come up and seen your guys' dam removals in the last year. We learned a lot from our brothers up in Washington on some of the dam removals, so I'm just saying, we all work together to get to where we are today, to see the world's biggest dam removal. So this September, the Klamath River will be free of dams but the two in Oregon.
Okay, we have, oh, were you going to speak to us? No? Okay. We have 5 minutes for Q&A. Anybody have any questions? All right, we answered all of your questions. Now, if you have any questions, these guys will be around. I know Jeremy's going to have to take off, but the rest of the guys will be here throughout ATNI. And I know I'm leaving Wednesdays, but I'm not the presenter anyway, so you guys ask them questions, okay? And I think it's, bottom line, we can't do this alone. We need to develop that partnership and collaboration. And it's through our dedication and our determination that we're fighting for our children's children that we're going to succeed. Thank you.